And I'm a real adult child of two alcoholics. I grew up on Long Island. My dad is a very prominent physician, and my mom's an early childhood trauma psychologist. So we had the perfect family where nobody would believe that anything was going on with us. And I grew up in Cold Spring Harbor, which was a beautiful waspy town overlooking the water. And both my parents are alcoholics. They've been in and out of the rooms my whole life. They're now both out of the rooms. My mom was having an affair. She's taken Ambien, I think, every night that I've known her. And my dad was over 350 pounds and was severely abusive. And I don't mean to throw my family under the bus, but just so you guys know what it was like. The first memory I really have of childhood, my dad was chasing me and my sister through the house, and he threw my sister up against the wall, and he was grabbing her by her chins, calling her a fat effing pig. And my sister was always the provoker. My dad was always the abuser, and I was always the Alanon referee, like just trying to make it all okay. And I jumped on his back, and I'm like trying to pry him off her, and he grabs me and like throws me up against the wall. And I'm just terrified. And I looked across the long hallway at my mom is like standing in her doorway, and I'm screaming for her to help us, and I'm begging. And she went into her room and closed the door. And that's kind of what it was like. It was every man for themselves, flight or flight. I felt like a lost child in the airport. We never had family dinners where someone would go around and talk about their day or talk about their feelings. The abuse kept getting worse and worse. And when I was 7, I crawled into bed with my mom and I said, "We have to go." And she said, "I know." And I said, "We have to go tonight." And we woke up at 3 a.m. We packed our bags with whatever we could get. We moved across Long Island. And I testified against my dad when I was 7. And I didn't talk to him for 15 years. And when I came into Alanon, I thought I was here because I hated my dad. And then I thought I was here because every girlfriend I've ever dated was an alcoholic who I was trying to fix. And then I realized I was here because of my mom. And now, 10 years into Alanon, I realize that I'm here because of me. And I learned in my first meeting that it's not my fault, but it is my problem. And Alanon gives me the tools to deal with my problem. Which is I'm terrified of the world around me because of how I grew up in an alcoholic home. And I also heard in my first meeting that we have to give from our overflow and not from our reservoir. And that sounded so good, but I had no idea what it meant. And today, 10 years into Alanon, that's really the topic and the struggle for me. The slip of an alcoholic is they pick up a drink. The slip for me as an adult child is I give when I have nothing to give. I hop in the middle, I try to fix, I try to make it okay, and I give from my reservoir when I am empty. And then I get resentful at them, and then I'm really resentful at myself. And, just 10 years into Alanon to talk how I'm a human and how I'm totally imperfect. About a year ago, I had 15 sponsees in this program and my other program, and I'm getting 20 outreach calls a day, and I'm answering them all, and I'm in the trenches with people. And I almost had a nervous breakdown. And I had a friend who was visiting me from New York, and she was watching what I was doing on a Sunday, like texting people back, like calling people back. And she's like, you're gonna be one of those Alanon people who snaps and like locks herself in an apartment. And this was really a struggle for me, and I was talking to my outside issue, and I was like, I just feel the need that I have to give. I have this ability to help people, and I ended up like, this isn't really an outside issue, but I ended up like Googling, did Jesus ever say no? And I'm a Jew, and this isn't like a religious thing, but my outside issue was like, why are you comparing yourself to that person? But like, that's what I do as an adult child. The bar is so high in every area of my life. And the truth was, like, he would go to these towns and help people and heal people, and like would be in a house with someone and people would break through from the roof and like climb in to get him to heal them. And that's what it can feel like for me sometimes. Like I feel like people are breaking through my roof and I'm trying to like keep them out and I'm empty. And you know, the truth is he said no. He would leave and say, I have to go to a new town. And for me, 10 years into Alanon, I learned how to say, I'm done. I have to go to a new town. And how do I even like give from my overflow? I don't even know what an overflow is. I don't know how to get an overflow. I came in here, I was sick all the time. Every girlfriend I ever had was an alcoholic. I hadn't spoken to my dad in over a decade. I hated my effing mom. I didn't know how to do life. I don't know how to do life. Like I never had a family dinner until I came into Alanon. Like I don't know how to deal with red lights. I don't know how to deal with the express line at Trader. Like I don't know how to deal with small things, and I don't know how to deal with, like when I came in here, I couldn't even talk to people. Like it took me 2 years in the rooms before I even raised my hand as a newcomer. The fact that I'm up here today without a written speech, without like knowing what I'm going to say is a miracle of this program, because it gives me the ability to show up even when I'm scared. And I'm so grateful. And even today, like I go to a meeting almost every day, and I learned how to get an overflow by surrounding myself with men in this program who showed me how to live life. Like my sponsor sitting in the front seat, I would go to his house and just like, although we went through the steps, for me, the real help was observing someone who's doing life in recovery and like getting that through osmosis. I don't know how to be in a relationship. I don't know how to have date night. I don't know how to like live my life according to spiritual principles. And I surround myself with people who are doing that. And then I start to act as if, and then I start to live that. And then people want what I have. And it's a miracle that that's how this program works for me. Today, I've made amends to my father, not for him doing what he did, but because I cut people out of my life when they hurt me, and then it's off with your head, out of my kingdom. I never want to talk to you again. And that's how I did all my relationships. If you looked at me wrong, dismissed. Never again will I talk to you. And that's how I dealt with everyone. And I have boundaries today, and I learn in this program that boundaries are third-dimensional principles that allow me to live in the fourth dimension. I'm going back to New York, and I'm going to see my father at the end of the month, and it's like, I told him I'll be at the hotel between 3 and 5 on Saturday, and if you want to come, I would love to see you. In my first couple of years in Alanon, straight into the lion's den, and like, here I'm back, like, let's get dysfunctional. And I know today that if I go into a lion's den with anything, it takes me a really long time to get back into emotional sobriety. Like, my girlfriend and I call it transition. Like, even if I'm in traffic for an hour, I need to, like, sit and get quiet when I get home. So going back to my alcoholic family is not easy. The first couple years in program, my first sponsor used to say, when you go out with people, just listen to them. They'll tell you who they are. And my first girlfriend in program was a recovering crystal meth addict. And she lost her mind. And when on our first date, she said, I'm fucking crazy. And I called my sponsor after, and I was like, I think she's the one. And today, 10 years into Alanon, I listen to what people say, and I don't try to change what they say into what I want them to say. That relationship, you know when you're in the right room when you get the sigh. And that relationship ended with that crystal meth addict cutting me with a piece of glass, and I ended up in the emergency room. And I thought I was just a good little Jewish boy from Long Island, but like, I end up in relationships where I'm getting domestically abused because I'm an Alanon and I want to fit squares into circles. And I think that's my time. I'm so grateful to be here. today, just to wrap up, I'm in a healthy relationship. I have amazing people in my life. I have a great career. I have boundaries with my family, and I don't walk around angry at the world anymore, because I do know that anything that's happened to me that I thought was against me has been totally in my favor for me. So thank you for letting me share. After the reading, the leader shares for 2 to 3 minutes. All right, hi, I'm David. Hey, David. So after I testified against my dad, court didn't take away custody for 2 years. So he had weekend visitation. And I used to beg my mom not to let me go with him. And she used to say things like, David, I need a weekend too. Like, I need a break. And eventually, the court took away custody, and my mom moved to India to live on an ashram. And I was raised by another family after I was 10 years old. So what I haven't shared is I have a deep, gaping hole inside me that I'm going to get left behind. And even I was raised by an amazing family. I call them my family, brothers and sisters, and Christmas and stockings. And even as a Jew, they gave me Christmas presents. It's amazing. But what I couldn't get, even with all the love of that family, is get rid of that feeling that, like, I'm so alone in this world. And what the 12 steps have given me is a link to a higher power, which can solve all of my problems today. And I have a higher power in my life today that I talk to all day long. And I say, God, can you protect me from my mind? Can you be with me? I'm scared. I feel alone. I don't want to speak at this meeting. I don't want to go into this work thing. Can you show me that I'm okay? And every time I take God with me, it ends up better than I ever could have imagined. And the power that I've gotten from this higher power, which when I came into Alanon, I was like, don't tell me there's a God unless you had the childhood that I had, which is how a lot of us came in, like chip on my shoulder. Don't tell me there's a God. But just coming to believe in a power greater than myself has been the most rewarding part of this program for me. Like, I live in a life that's grace. I have so many miracles because I have a higher power, so thank you.